أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل. So welcome to the second session that we have in this series of 3 sessions about Introduction to Islamic Spirituality. So in today's discussion we have 2 sections. Section number 1 is in a way completion of what we discussed last time. If you remember last time, mainly the discussion was trying to understand what spirituality is and what its relationship to ethics is. And as I mentioned, any topic that you study, it's very important to have clarity of understanding what exactly we're discussing and what these different terminologies they mean. So we had so many different words, we tried to put them in perspective. So spirituality, ethics, akhlaq, irfan, sayru suluk, and similar things that you hear that generally we come across when we're discussing this topic. So what I want to do today is I want to add another factor to it so that our picture is complete to know what exactly is going on. And I'll bring some ahadith and evidence to show that this is the right perspective to have. So a part of it, a small part of it will be kind of recap, but inshallah I'm going to add new things. So let's try and put everything together. So that's part 1 of my discussion. Part 2 inshallah, which is going to be the main discussion, which is what identifies true spirituality from a false one. We want to know that because inshallah we all want to pursue true spirituality, Islamic spirituality, and there are certain identifiers or markers. There are certain ways in which you can find out, okay, this is the right path of spirituality and this is like a wrong path. So we want to know that, and inshallah we'll complete that discussion today. And next session, which will be the last session, is that based on this understanding of spirituality and the right version of it as opposed to the wrong, we'll see what's the practical plan, like what Islam suggests. But again, as I have mentioned, this is a very condensed course in the sense that some parts of it you'll see just as an outline. The explanation will be short. A course like this will need much more time to go into details of all of this. So spirituality I explained last time, and I'm going to paraphrase it. And again, this is spirituality according to Islamic understanding. A secular understanding of spirituality or spirituality in other religions might be different. Even spirituality amongst, let's say, Ahlul Sunnah and certain other sects can also be different. This is basically the Shia spirituality as taught to us by the ulama, learning from the teachings of Quran and Ahlul Bayt. So this is like the main discussion. So spirituality is an urge and a need in us human beings to get closer to Allah and seek His true ma'rifah. That's spirituality in one line. So it's a need, it's a goal, and it's also an urge. It's something that's within us, but of course that urge needs to be sparked. It needs to become stronger. And the goal is, of course, getting closer to Allah and seeking His ma'rifah, and that's why it's called irfan. We say, I want to reach irfan, or this person is an arif, means he's reached ma'rifatullah. He's reached a station where he's close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the question is, okay, this is the goal, this is what it means to be truly spiritual, but the question is, how do we get there? The pathway to spirituality is ethics or akhlaq. Okay? If you want to get closer to Allah and have that ma'rifah, the sole way is through ethics. So it's a comprehensive path that leads a human being to fulfill the spiritual need. Okay? So the spiritual need would not get fulfilled without following the path of akhlaq and ethics. There is no other way. There is no shortcut to becoming spiritual. So I think these 2 are clear. You may ask, what is then Sharia? Right? Because we spoke about akhlaq, we spoke about ma'rifat and irfan. The question is, where does Sharia fit in all of this? So I'm going to bring that. I know it complicates our structure, but I think it's good once and for all, we just put everything in its place so we know what's going on. Because last time I saw a few questions coming after the class that, where does Sharia fit? Again, I'm going to use examples to explain it well. So Sharia is like this. Islamic laws are that framework and red lines within which you have to stay if you want to even start thinking of getting closer to Allah. Someone who's not within the bounds of Sharia is not in the path at all anyways. Okay. So that Sharia defines the framework. Now, what can I do? I have to use an example to explain this. And the most popular thing that people love, okay, not all, some people love is, of course, football. Okay. So I'm going to give example of football to put these three things in perspective. Okay. So again, it's a very bad way to say it, but I have to say it, like spirituality is exactly like football. Okay, and it's very bad to say, but there is a similarity. Okay, so in football, you have the goal of football, right? So someone who's playing football, he has a goal. What's the goal? The person wants to become famous, he wants to earn a lot of money and become the best footballer in the world. That's the goal. That's the destination. Now the question is, how do you reach there? Okay. For that, you need to practice, you need to know the techniques of football, right? The goal is to become a professional, very high income footballer. That's one of the main aims, right? They make a lot of money. But you have to develop skills and qualities and traits inside you that allow you to become that best footballer, right? And in order to be able to practice and develop these techniques, you have to follow the laws of football. Okay. You have to enter the arena and you have to abide by the laws, the boundaries, right? There is a referee, there are rules, there's 11 each side, and this is how the goals will be scored. This is not allowed, this is a foul, there's a yellow card, there's a red card, you can be thrown out of the ground. There are rules to the game. Okay. Now someone can't say that, look, I don't care about laws of football. I'm not going to follow them. I'm going to do what I want, but I want to become the best footballer. Sorry. It won't happen. Not only it won't happen, no one will even accept you to come and practice. You'll be told that first go and learn the basics of football, learn the laws, then learn to abide by the laws, then you can practice your skills. You can do whatever you want, the fancy stuff all these footballers do, I don't know. They have so many different names. Yes, you can be like, I don't know, a striker, a defense, a goalkeeper, and you can excel in your position. You have to be within the framework and laws of football. Same thing happens for Islam. Someone has to enter the arena of Islam and commit to follow the laws of Islam so that he's playing in the arena, and now you develop those techniques, those akhlaq that inshallah will take you to that goal. So I think this is a good example to put it in framework. So basically the question now comes is, what allows you to enter this arena of spirituality? What, if I may ask you, like, so we saw three things. We have spirituality, we have ethics, we have laws. Okay? So getting closer to Allah, akhlaq and ahkam or sharia. What is that doorway and entry to this whole arena where you can come, you can practice, you abide by the laws, and inshallah you grow and you reach your destination? What's that entry point to this? There's an entry point that allows you to even participate. Sorry? It's louder? Okay, La ilaha illallah. Okay, that's good. Someone else? Yes? Aqidah, okay, so that's similar to Aqidah. I'm looking for a keyword. I mean, if you give me that keyword, then I'm so Shahada is part of it. It's a very important thing. That's the most important thing we have. Okay. Iman. Okay. Iman and taslim and submission. So basically the doorway, that first door, the opening door to spirituality is Iman. If I don't have Iman on the same Aqidah and La ilaha illallah, and then the Holy Prophet and the Imams and the Malaika and the angels and the spiritual realm and that my own reality, the creation, why Allah has created me, if I don't have Iman, it's as if, taking the same football example, I don't even know what football is, right? And if I don't know what Iman and Islam is, it's as good or as bad as saying that I don't know what football is. I'm never going to enter the arena. I don't know the laws. I don't know how it works. I don't know how to practice. I don't know anything about football. So the first step in spirituality is Iman. That leads you to the ahkam, which is the Islamic law. So you said, okay, these are the red lines, boundaries. I'm playing within these boundaries. Then you get the chance to practice your akhlaq, and you develop noble ethics through practice and effort. And inshallah, if you manage to do that, alhamdulillah, you become spiritual and you're getting closer to Allah, and that ma'rifat and irfan will come. Okay. So this is broadly how these are placed. So let me go back to what I discussed last time and complete the picture. So next slide is more focused on akhlaq. So basically what I'm trying to say is that in Islam, our morality and akhlaq is heavily tied to reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. If you have akhlaq that does not lead you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and closer to Him, it's not a complete akhlaq. Okay? And therefore, we differ quite genuinely with the secular akhlaq and ethics. Okay? So the secular akhlaq and ethics is that general good akhlaq that we all have by the nature of being human beings and our fitrah. I spoke about it last time, that there's a basic standard of akhlaq and morality that Allah has given us. He's inspired us with those qualities. Okay? Everybody has a baseline of akhlaq. Of course, you can cover it up and go against it. There's no guarantee that everyone will have. But you'll find a lot of non-Muslims who have these general good akhlaq, which is a very good thing. I'm not saying it's a negative thing, but that's one level, okay, of akhlaq. The second level of akhlaq comes through that doorway. So you have the general akhlaq, that is the first step. Second step is, okay, you say, I have iman, I'll have taqwa, and I'll submit to Allah. Now you're opening the door for the higher akhlaq. And as I mentioned last time, in this higher akhlaq and higher ethics, you're pursuing two goals. You're pursuing benefit of your own and society, and ultimately you're pursuing proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? In other words, any action that leads you closer to Allah and that leads to your own benefit and benefit of society is a moral action, even if no one is watching. Okay, so I gave example of lying, right, and saying the truth. A person might lie and cover up his fitrah, and he might think that, what's the big deal? Let's say someone lies for making money. Okay? In Islamic spirituality, that won't work, because as soon as I lie, even if no one finds out, I have committed harm to myself. I have done dhulm on myself, so that's an anti-moral action, and I've done something, I'm getting away from Allah. Okay? So, doesn't matter, a person does an action in front of others alone, it has moral implications in Islam, because it's either taking you closer to Allah, or it's taking you away from Allah. Okay. So basically, the first part is the human universal akhlaq, which is good, which we all as believers must have. But of course, we have the higher akhlaq, which is the Islamic religious akhlaq and ethics. You might wonder, or you might ask that, where did I bring this division and classification from? Is it from my own pocket? It's what, for example, just the scholars made it up to make it look fancy? No. Again, I won't have time because this is a condensed course. I'll give you one example from each of the three, which explains what spirituality is, what ethics is, and what laws are. Okay. So very quickly, one verse of the Holy Quran and two hadiths. Okay. So let's get started with spirituality. You might ask, where is this idea of getting closer to Allah and qurb? Okay, so they're different words. Getting closer to Allah, Allah's ma'rifah. Where is it in the Quran? The answer is, it's here. Okay, it's not supposed to play that. So this is Surah Yusuf, verse number 108. So 12:108. Very clear. If you can mute it here. So this is the wrong order. Click. Go to the next. Okay. So no, this is an audio from the last time. So the audio did not. So this is Surah Yusuf, where the Holy Prophet is commanded to say to others, Qul, tell people, Hadihi sabili, this is my path. Okay. Tell people that this is my path. What's my path? Ad'u ilallah. That's it. That's my path. I'm here to invite all of you towards Allah. Finish. That's the goal. That's spirituality. He's there to tell us that, look, we all have to go get closer to Allah. Of course, ala basiratin ana wa man ittaba'ani. This path of getting closer to Allah requires a lot of basira and a lot of understanding and knowledge. You cannot do without that. I don't like to say this, but it's true, is that it's not an easy path. There's a lot of details to it. It's not something trivial that you can easily attain. Ana wa man ittaba'ani, and wa subhanallahi wa ma ana minal mushrikeen. That's the goal, that we shouldn't be mushrik in any ways. We have to be a muwahhid. We have to be a monotheist. So that's the goal, and that's spirituality, nothing else. Again, please keep in mind, there are lower versions of spirituality. It's not 0 and 100. This is 100% spirituality, where you get closer to Allah. One level lower is when you do something for benefit of individual or society. One level lower is you do good just because your fitrah tells you. Each of these have value. We shouldn't negate the value. I mean, if you want to give numbers, the first one is like 10, 20, 30%, the general akhlaq. If you add the intention of benefiting the society, it goes higher. If you add the intention of getting closer to Allah, you get the full morality and akhlaq. Okay. This is the translation, sorry, I should have shown it. This is my way, I summon to Allah with insight. Okay. What about akhlaq? Okay, so this is very interesting. The two ahadith I found, they're very interesting, and both are from Amirul Mu'mineen. Okay. So let's recite a salawat for him. Allahumma salli. Okay. I hope the audio doesn't play again. I can see it's there. Okay. Yeah, I can reduce the volume. Although it's dua makarimul akhlaq, so you don't mind listening to it. It's a very nice dua. Okay. I'm just going to read the translation. Even if we had no hope for paradise, no fear of hell, and neither expected reward or punishment, it will still be necessary for us to seek noble character, makarimul akhlaq. Okay, so see, he's saying that if Allah had no punishment, means he had no laws. See, when he's speaking about no punishment, no reward, he's speaking about the laws. If Allah had made no laws, yet it would be incumbent upon us to seek makarimul akhlaq. Why? For it is among the things that lead towards the path of success. And success is core, getting closer to Allah. There is no greater success than getting closer to Allah and reaching that ma'rifah. How do you get there? Makarimul akhlaq, even if there are no laws. Even if there's no promise of punishment, heaven, hellfire, but still you have to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So ethics is different from laws, and laws and ethics are different from getting closer to Allah. The last one is a very interesting hadith. I'm just going to read the translation. It requires probably this hadith, to make sense out of it will require a whole session. And sometimes we have. A lot of the ahadith that we have from the Ahlul Bayt are like that. It's very interesting how he's given an example. This is Amirul Mu'mineen. So I'm again reading translation, just spotting the point where we need to connect to a discussion. The rest I'll leave it for you to, inshallah, discuss and figure out. Okay. The world is like a garden. Okay, Amirul Mu'mineen is giving an example. The world means our presence in the world. And its fence is the divine law. The Sharia is the fence, as I said. This is the fence. Okay. And this is what I wanted to show. The rest of the hadith kind of doesn't concern us, but I'll nevertheless read it because it's very interesting. So basically, the world is garden, and garden needs a fence, otherwise it will be destroyed. It won't remain a garden and a pleasant place. So you need to have those laws. And now what he says is, divine law needs a ruler who's obeyed. That obedience is what creates proper governance. The ruler is like a shepherd backed by his army. The army can only function through resources. The resources come from people's livelihood and income. People are held together and protected by justice. And justice is the solid foundation that keeps the entire world standing. It's basically, in other words, Sharia is what protects the society from falling apart and collapsing, and creating that safe ground for people to get closer to Allah. But the important point here is that Islamic laws without an Islamic ruler and government will not be implemented. And therefore, majority of the people will not get a chance to even practice their akhlaq. Take the football example again. It's like this, that if there's no one protecting the football pitch and making sure it's in order, there is no authority doing that, what's going to happen is it's going to be chaos. No one will be able to play football and become a good footballer. Everyone will lose out. Okay. Society is exactly the same. So Islamic laws is that foundation of society and community, that if you don't have that, everything collapses. And you can relate it to the situation in the world today. There are millions of people, for example, in Africa itself, that because there is no just ruler, and because the Islamic laws are not being implemented in the society, 90% of the people, they are so oppressed economically, in other ways, they cannot even think of spirituality. Ethics is the last concern to them, to be honest. We are those very privileged people that, alhamdulillah, we get the chance to think about akhlaq, ethics, spirituality, getting closer. I was just coming from my home, walking by the streets, and I was just thinking about these people who are selling vegetables and these things on the street. You think like, look, for them, their primary concern is that how are they going to survive in this like a brutal like merciless world. No one cares for anyone. The ruler is not just. The Islamic laws are not being followed. The justice is not there. There's not a strong army that can protect them. So basically they're saying that, look, I have to somehow survive. Spirituality and akhlaq is their least concern because it doesn't work like that. Yes?
At the same token, if you are in a privileged status, does it also mean that you can't achieve that level of spirituality living in an unjust?
No. So if you live in a secure environment where at least you are getting your rights, justice comes to you because of your social status, your ethnic status, and your basic needs are fulfilled, and you are in a situation where you can follow the Islamic laws. A person is not being drawn into haram, which is most of us, like the Khoja community is like that. Generally, we get our financial rights, we get our other rights, we have access to knowledge and tools. Therefore, what it means is that we are in the playground already. If we exit, we are exiting by our own choice, which is much worse than someone, an African poor person, exiting the field and committing a sin. His committing a sin might be out of desperation. He was so poor that he couldn't control himself. He stole. Again, it's not justified. But let's say a person amongst us gets into sins, then it's like he was allowed to play. He himself said that, look, I don't want to play, I'm going out. The other person was so poor, he couldn't make it to the football field. For us, we are already in the football field, and if I decide to exit and not pursue the path, the repercussions are going to be harder, right? Because will be questioned that you had all the facilities. So the basic framework and justice and life free of sins is necessary for ethics to work. Summary conclusion so far is, and I'm finishing my first part, wrapping up. So basically last session and this session is summarized in this one line. So I'm going to read it. So if someone doesn't have the right iman, okay, someone who doesn't have the right iman, that person is actually playing outside the ground. He's not even in the field. He's just outside, he's doing stuff outside, and misses out on both the goals of akhlaq. If someone is not a Muslim, not a Shia, not following the right path, they haven't even entered the arena. They don't know the laws, so every day they might be doing things which is breaking Allah's laws, which actually causes harm to the society and takes them away from Allah without knowing. Again, how Allah will judge them is a separate question. I'm not speaking about that. Those non-Muslims who are not on the right path, how Allah will judge them, that's a separate question about their salvation. What I'm saying is that, look, if someone is not on the right path, if someone is not in the football field, he's not in the football field. He won't be able to play. Yes, someone wasn't able to make it. Will Allah excuse them? Will Allah let them play another football match in Barzakh and compensate? That's a separate story. Again, same analogy for spirituality. Someone wasn't able to become spiritual because they were non-Muslims, guidance did not reach them, they're very desperate, they couldn't do. Maybe Allah will give them another opportunity somehow, somewhere. Let's not worry about that. The reality doesn't change that they never managed to enter the arena of getting closer to Allah, and therefore they're outside the arena. They're not even playing. Okay. So therefore, Iman is the doorway. And then you have the Sharia, which is the base, the foundation. Then you have the akhlaq, which are the noble manners that we have to practice and act. And inshallah, if you do that, you become spiritual. So that was a summary of my first section. And drawing on that, inshallah, we're going to discuss in 5 times 4, 20 minutes. I'm going to discuss 5 markers or indicators of true spirituality. Okay? 4 minutes for each. Okay, I want to try this. Let's see. I don't want to rush, but let me see if I can do this. So fasten your seatbelts, and if you're ready, recite the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Okay, so we know that spirituality is more precious than gold, right? So gold is very precious. There's a gold boom right now. The prices have gone up. Of course, a part of the gold boom is supported by the genocide in Sudan. Sudan has one of the biggest gold mines, and these emirates, they're involved there, causing a civil war, UAE, Abu Dhabi and others, because there's a lot of gold there. So a lot of people are making a lot of money. But that's besides the point. The true gold is irfan. If you can find someone who has that ma'rifat of Allah in his heart, and he's truly become closer to Allah, it's very rare to find such a person, the true irfan, the true ma'rifat. It's very rare. So we need to be careful that we don't get tricked and we don't buy a stone that looks like gold, that's painted gold, like fake items. And alhamdulillah, we live at times where fake spirituality and incorrect versions of spirituality are mashallah out there. You'll find, basically you can even customize it to your own taste. There's so many versions of spirituality. Whatever you like, you'll find. You want spirituality in yoga, I don't know. Okay, I shouldn't use these names. Yoga, pranic healing, I don't know, Buddhism, there's so many. You just go search online spirituality. And again, it's justified in the sense that it's demand and supply, right? Like it's economics, basically. There's so much demand, people are tired of materialism so much that now they're seeking for anything and everything that's out there. They want to hold on to something that even mildly feels spiritual and looks like gold. But we need to be careful. Okay, so let's quickly go through this. The first marker of spirituality, true Islamic spirituality, is that true Islamic spirituality is not about gaining spiritual powers. If someone's aim in becoming spiritual is to be able to see behind the walls, I don't know, to peep into batin of people, or sit on the air like some of the Hindu monks they do, and it's real, by the way. It's not like, it's well documented that these Hindu monks and some of these other people, they have spiritual powers. But does that mean they're spiritual? Certainly not. Why? Because spirituality is not gauged by these spiritual powers. Don't get me wrong. It's basically what I'm trying to say is that if someone has spiritual powers, doesn't automatically mean he's spiritual. But the other way might hold true, that if someone is truly spiritual, Allah might give him spiritual powers. Okay? So the backward doesn't work, that you just see spiritual powers and come to this conclusion that, oh, he must be very close to Allah. No. Someone can be very far from Allah and yet be given spiritual powers. It's very tricky. But the other way can hold true. Someone who's truly close to Allah, he's a waliullah, he's an arif, he might be given spiritual powers and you might see something from them. Okay. Again, it needs to be based on evidence and documented. We don't want to make stories. And it's so tricky. I'm going to share a very interesting story with you. Okay. Let me ask you, how many of you heard the name of Hassan al-Basri? Can you tell me who was Hassan al-Basri?
He was like an arif, considered a mentor of Shia.
Yeah. So he's a very, very well-known Sunni Sufi Arif. Right? So again, Irfan and that kind of very highly respected to the extent that they have, historically they've reported things from him. But look how tricky it is. Okay. So this person was a contemporary of Amirul Mu'mineen. Okay. And Amirul Mu'mineen had to fight the Battle of Siffin, and this person did not join the battle. Okay. So Amirul Mu'mineen was in Basra, so he's Basri, so he was in Basra, so Amirul Mu'mineen is in Basra, and he happens to pass by Hassan al-Basri. Okay, so he has an encounter with Hassan al-Basri, Amirul Mu'mineen. Okay. Amirul Mu'mineen asks him that, why did you not join me in the battle against Muawiyah, in Battle of Siffin? Because by any outwardly standards, he should have, right? Because by Shia standards, he's the Imam, so you have to obey the Imam. By Sunni standards, Imam Ali is the Khalifa. So by any Muslim standards present at that time, he should have joined, but he did not. So Imam asked him, why did you not join? So he said that, actually, I was planning to join. I got ready. I got my sword, everything. And I came out of the house with the intention of joining you, but I heard a cry, a spiritual voice, telling me that al-qatilu wal-maqtul kilahuma finnar. I heard a divine voice saying that the killer and the killed, both of them are in hellfire. I heard a voice saying, who's like, it's a battle, right? So Amirul Mu'mineen's army has gone to attack and take back Sham from Muawiyah. So they are the qatil, they are the attackers. So here what the voice saying that, look, this is a wrong battle, both sides are wrong, so don't join. So he said, therefore I turn back. Okay. What do? He's an arif. Okay. It's very tricky. So Amirul Mu'mineen asks him, do you know who it was? Whose voice that was? Do you know whose voice that was? So Hassan al-Basri says, no, I don't know. Amirul Mu'mineen says, ذَاكَ أَخُوكَ الشَّيْطَانِ. Now says, that was your brother Shaitan. It's very tricky, hearing a voice, seeing dreams, some spiritual power, something happened, I don't know, something keeps on happening to me, I'm very spiritual. People who have near-death experiences, I had shown the video, a man who had a near-death experience and he literally, and we have indicators to trust him, he literally made Imam al-Rida, Imam Zaman and Imam Hussein. In that same episode, they had an interview with Ayatollah Tahriri in which he reminded that none of this should be taken as a sign of spiritual distinction of that person. We have criteria. You have to go by the standards. Spiritual powers is not a criteria, but again, it's not a backward criteria, okay? That spiritual powers don't mean you have a high station, but yes, people who have a high station will have some kind of, whatever you want to call it, spiritual powers. Of course, it needs to be proven, it needs to be authentic, or you have to see it with your own eyes. That's the first one. Okay, time is running. That's the first one. The second one, which we spoke about, is that true spirituality is always in line with Sharia. In fact, that's the base. There is no meaning for spirituality without accurately and precisely and genuinely and sincerely trying to follow the Sharia to its minute detail. There is no other way. I cannot discount on Sharia and say that I'll follow those big things, but these small things, Fatwa Fatul Sistani, it's just like, I don't even know how to find it. It's okay. Some people have this attitude, I've heard this also. People say that Allah is Arhamur Rahimin, He'll forgive, right? It's okay, I'm praying, fasting, but other things, I'm not careful of my income, my mal, my relationship with others, how I'm talking, the halal and haram. According to the teachings that we have from the Ahlul Bayt, there is no way anyone can become spiritual. And I don't want to make it very prominent. Even mildly spiritual, even a bit spiritual, if he's deliberately and knowingly breaking Sharia. Deliberately. Of course, mistakes happen. We're not masoom. Those are not counted. It's not like it's about someone has intention to deliberately not follow the Sharia despite knowing it. Yes, if you are in doubt, go and ask. If in state of doubt your marja allows you to take benefit of doubt, it's okay. Right? If your marja is a situation. So basically ahkam become very important, and we have this very famous hadith that the scholars of akhlaq give a lot of importance, and unfortunately I'm packing a lot of content. What I'm presenting today is basically like an outline. Each of these we can have a session explaining it. There's a very famous hadith that the scholars of akhlaq explain a lot. It's called Hadith Qurbul Nawafil, okay, or Hadith Qurbul Fara'id. The hadith says, again, this is Hadith Qudsi, which means it's something said by Allah, reported to us through the Ahlul Bayt. So Hadith Qudsi are words of Allah other than the Quran. So it says, مَا يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ أَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أَحَبَّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا افْتَرَضْتُ عَلَيْهِ. There's nothing that can get a servant of mine close to me. There's nothing greater than the wajibat and fara'id that can get a servant closer to me. Nothing comes even close to wajibat and leaving haram when it comes to getting closer to Allah. The higher stations, it's like this. It's like, you've seen those games, right? Like you have to clear level 1. Otherwise, even if you, I don't know if you played those games, even if you go till the end of the level and you haven't completed the tasks previously, the door will be closed, right? Whatever you do, of course, if you have a cheat code, you can pass. But unfortunately here, there is no cheat code. Like there is no cheat code. I can skip the level of wajibat and say that, okay, I'll do a lot of mustahabat and make up for it. In fact, the continuation of the hadith, the second version of the hadith says that La qurba fi nawafil idha adarrat bihil fara'id. That the mustahab things you do, they do not take you closer to Allah if it affects your wajibat. They do not. They lose their... Basically, the football example, right? If you go outside the arena, whatever passes and shoots you do and skills have no impact on the... Like if you go outside the line and you shoot a thing and it goes, the referee is going to say, sorry, it's not counted. You said, I showed amazing skills. I curved the ball and it was like the best free kick that anyone has ever seen. He's saying, sorry, you were not in the arena. This goal doesn't count. Same way, if someone has gone outside the bounds of Sharia, whatever goals he scores, again, I don't want to make it vary, it leaves some impact, but it doesn't help that much. So that's the second one. The third one, and again, this is basically an outline, I'm not going into the details, is that the third marker of true spirituality is that true Islamic spirituality is very balanced. Like, it loves balance. Islam loves balance unlike any other thing. Everywhere it speaks about balance. Don't go on extremes. Stay in the balance. Tariqul wusta, sirat al-mustaqim. Right? Don't do ifrat and tafrit. You'll be an ignorant person if you go on the extremes. Stay in the middle path, because without that, again, we are not reaching anywhere. So anything that tends to overdo a certain thing or underdo something is actually condemned in Islam. Okay? So you see, again, this is a famous story. The Holy Prophet, he was on the mimbar and someone came and told him that there's a group of people who have left the dunya, who have left their families, they have gone there and they're just doing their ibadat and they're not attending to their worldly needs. The Holy Prophet got upset. He left his khutbah. He came down from the mimbar. Sorry, he was outside the mosque, someone told him, he came and he gave a khutbah, and this is the part of it. مَا بَالُ أَقْوَامٍ يُحَرِّمُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمِ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. What's wrong with these people who are making the halal things haram on them? They're losing the balance. Baba, this is halal, family, occupation, all these are halal. Why are you making it halal? And then he says, Allah inni anabu min layl. I'm the Prophet. Like, I sleep at night. وَأَنْكَهُ, I have a family. وَأَفْتِرُ بِالنَّهَارِ, I eat lunch, I eat during daytime. Then he says, فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. Usually we recite this during nikah, right? Right, that's the thing, right? Nikah min sunnati, man ragiba an sunnati. So that's one part. This is a more complete hadith. He's saying sleeping, enjoying other things, food. In other words, balance is my sunnah. And the Holy Prophet disassociates those people who do not follow this. He says, فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِ فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. He's not on my path. You cannot go closer to Allah. هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. That won't happen. Okay. So basically, Islamic spirituality, which roughly is equal to akhlaq. Okay, again, as I said, these are two interconnected. If you have Islamic akhlaq, you're becoming spiritual. If you're becoming spiritual, means that you're following the akhlaqi instructions. So it's very comprehensive, and some of the ulama, they divide akhlaq in these sections. So they say, akhlaq is these four things. Okay. So Islamic akhlaq and ethics, which again will make you spiritual. Again, some of the things I'm repeating for a reason, because I want that to be the main message. It's your relationship with Allah, that's akhlaq. How do you conduct yourself with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Your relationship with yourself, although sounds very funny, right? Like it's my relationship to myself. No, we have a very significant relationship with ourselves. Our soul, our nafs, our mind, we have to take care of it. Your relationship with people, that's part of akhlaq. So family, society, and your relationship with other objects, other things. So for example, your possessions. This is not a human being, but I own it. So I have a relationship with this, akhlaq comes in. Like there'll be certain actions I can do with respect to my mal that add to my spiritual value. I can use that to get closer to Allah. And even other objects like environment, animals, trees. Those are the things that if you establish the right connection with them as instructed by the Islamic akhlaqi teachings, then you rise. Okay, let's move on. I'll finish in a few minutes. Fourth one. This is very important, and at times in our community, again, we have both ends of the spectrum. Sometimes we have like sections of community who are very traditional, some sections who are very modern. Again, we don't want to get into that debate. Whatever be the case, we come back to Islam. So Islam says that, look, material dimension that does not conflict spiritual dimension. Because this is said a lot from the mimbar, it leads to misconception. Either you choose dunya or akhirat, you cannot have both. Which is of course wrong. Because we recite this dua so many times in kunut. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana, fil akhirati hasana. It's not that they inherently conflict. Dunya and akhirah have no inherent conflict. The conflict comes in your intentions. If you have the wrong intentions while pursuing dunya, it conflicts your intentions to get closer to Allah. But if you see the dunya, there's nothing wrong. In fact, there's a very interesting, beautiful verse of the Holy Quran, which I'm going to read. Sorry, I didn't bring the English translation. I'm just reading Arabic, because I want everybody to get accustomed to Arabic. Inshallah, one day everybody can just read and understand Arabic, inshallah. قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَطَيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرَّزْقِ. The Holy Prophet is being commanded to tell everyone that, say to them, who has made those halal things and the tayyib things that I have sent as rizq haram on believers? Why are you doing this? Why are you making halal things haram on people? Don't do that. Then it says something very interesting. Kul hiya lilladina amanu fil hayati dunya. These blessings, halal blessings, Allah has created actually for the believers. The non-believers are using it, like they're ungrateful, but Allah said, it's okay, now you use it. You're ungrateful. It wasn't for you actually. Because you're misusing it anyways. You're not going to come close to me. I intended it for believers, but now dunya, so I'm going to be. But khalisatan yawm al-qiyamah. But all these blessings in the qiyamah will be only for believers. So all these blessings of Allah are shared between believers and non-believers. But on the day of judgment and in qiyamah, khalisatan lilladina amanu. And of course, then says, كَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. This is how we explain our verses for those people who know. The last one, sorry, the image is wrong. So ignore the image. I'm supposed to change it. The last one. Okay. This is the trickiest part. Again, there are more markers of spirituality, but I won't bring them. The number goes up to 10. But I chose the most prominent ones. There are other things I wanted to add, but I said I can't fit 10 in one session, be too condensed. This is the hard one, that Islamic spirituality, true Islamic spirituality is a slow, very slow process. Right? There are no quick results. There is nothing that you can achieve in a day. Even maybe you want, and it's so slow that you might even feel, I'm not growing. It comes to the extent that you start losing hope. That am I even doing the right thing? Am I growing? It's slow and not very tangible. It's hard to spot even for yourself. Even though we know ourselves, the spirituality that's building in you might not be fully uncovered for even your own self. It's very slow, it's very hidden process, and therefore Islamic spirituality, the true spirituality that we have from the al-Bayt, it requires patience. Patience. It requires a lot of patience and consistency. You just keep doing. Just keep doing, you keep going. And when the right time is there, whatever Allah wants to give you of spiritual blessings, He'll give you. Okay? But it is going to be slow. And therefore we have been told that, look, this path are going to have less companions, so don't get scared, just keep going. Okay? So again, this is from Amirul Mu'mineen. Ya ayyuhan nas, la tastawhishu fi tariqil huda likillati ahli. Don't get scared and dejected and lose hope and feel lonely because you see that you have less companions on this path. Like most people are not actively on the path. Don't get scared of this. Just keep going because the process is very slow. It builds in you, it's your personality, it's your insight, and slowly and gradually, at the right times, it shows itself how strongly you have built self. It's a journey. Okay. Of course, some of those who reach very high station, it took them a long time. For example, they say that someone like as elite as someone like Ayatollah Bahjat, he really came out like as someone spiritual people could see, but after 50. Like, he had to, of course, he was growing in levels, not that he reached 50 in one go. It's a gradual change, but for that time to come where people started even realizing and finding out that, oh, he's special, he has that true connection with Allah, that ma'rifat and irfan and whatever. Of course, people, when it comes to Ayatollah Bahjat, are again after those spiritual powers. They're looking, okay, did he do something fancy? Did he, like, people love that stuff, right? Like, we all are fascinated by these things. So we're always after like karamat and story and what happened to him. Yes, that will be there somewhere, but that's not important. Even if it wasn't there, doesn't matter. What matters is, did he have that true connection and ma'rifah and his personality in those spiritual qualities? So yeah, I spoke a lot. This was a lot of content. I know this. Ideally shouldn't be done like this. I packed a lot of content because what happens is this. Two things happen when you pack a lot of content in one session. One is that you don't get time to like think about it and sink in. The other thing is that I know this is going to happen, that no one is going to come back and ask for another course of spirituality because they're saying we have done it. I've done 3 sessions of Islamic spirituality. I know everything. So we have seen this happen. So many times I'm reluctant to do this, pack too many things in one, because after it's done, he said, I have done it. But I can safely, guaranteedly, I don't know, there's no Quran, I can swear by the Quran that we have barely even scratched the surface. Barely. This is not tip of the iceberg, is also a lot. This is like that top part of the iceberg, like you just touch. Something like this has a lot of detail. Take it, please, as an outline. Don't take it as actual spirituality. So the course should be renamed, I think, and you should call it the outline of Islamic spirituality, because it is the outline. We'll get very less chance to go in a bit of detail. But inshallah, the hope is that by seeing the outline, inshallah, we'll be encouraged to go and read more, pursue more, and find more details, all those things that we need. Thank you very much for listening. My timer says it's exactly 50 minutes, which is very long, but that was the idea. We have a 50-minute class, so alhamdulillah, I managed to finish all I had planned in time. Let's recite the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.